Okay, the second part of this video series that I want to answer is a lot of questions that I get all the time. So I'm going to link to some blog posts and also some video posts that I've done with Andrea Tooley on this question. But what made me go back to school to be a nurse practitioner versus a PA versus a MD? And what did I see that adding to my practice as a dietitian? And so first and foremost, I went back to school in like one sentence because I felt very limited in my RD practice. I didn't want to talk about just food. I've always been like pulled towards the field of medicine, but I was so put off by Western medicine and our like hyper focus on pharmaceuticals in college when I was pre-med that I like took a hard right and went towards dietetics. And so, but about 2 years into my RD practice, I just felt so limited. I couldn't see myself only doing that for my whole life. And I wanted to be able to be hands-on with patients and to provide comprehensive care. Now, I'm very transparent in that I did not go back to medical school because I was 24 when I decided to go back to school. I was 25 when I started. And I know that's very young, but I just did not want to dedicate the next decade of my life training as a physician. I did not think that I loved medicine enough. It truly is a calling to become a physician. You will sell your soul. That's a pretty harsh statement, but I have friends whose husbands are residents and they're rarely home. I mean, it is beautiful work they're doing, but you have to really be in it to win it. And I just wasn't. I wanted to do this for sure, but I had a lot of other aspects of my life that were super important to me. And I didn't love it enough to devote my entire life to it for the next however many years. So that, in addition to the nursing education and the nursing philosophy, just really resonated with me. And I chose nursing over PA because not only did I love the nursing education, but nurse practitioners actually have more autonomy than PAs. Not in all states, but almost all of them, nurse practitioners are fully autonomous medical providers. And what that means is in New York, we're fully autonomous. And so I have a collaborative agreement with the physician for the first 3,600 hours of my practice. So obviously I'm still under that window. It's about 2 years of full-time work. We're actually practicing under a physician. A collaborative agreement is just a piece of paper, basically. Physician's assistants will always have to have a collaborative agreement with physicians. And so there's not full autonomy there. As a nurse practitioner, we are autonomous medical providers. Where I work currently in like an emergency medicine, urgent care setting, there's no MDs in the practice. We're kind of the head person. So we kind of make the final calls and we delegate and lead and all those sorts of things, which is terrifying at times, but also challenging and exciting. And so I chose nurse practitioner over a PA or an MD, one, because the nursing education really resonated with me. It's focused, of course, I preface all this, you can have physicians who practice very holistic, very preventative medicine, but doctors are more trained as a whole. I'm sure people might argue with me or have some sort of commentary, but as a whole, doctors are trained to find pathology. They are skilled in that, and that is what they do, and we need them. Nurse practitioners are more trained. The nursing model is more of this like biopsychosocial model where yes, it's physical and yes, it's social, yes, it's psychological, but it's also sociological, and it's all these pieces tied in, and our minds are kind of trained to work like that. And I give an example of this, which again, physicians, you can have physicians practicing in this really beautiful, holistic way, and you can have nurse practitioners not. With any profession, you're going to have good and bad of everything. But I kind of give this example because it paints the picture. If a woman came in and she had a really bad cold or she's been feeling sick all the time, yada, 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 the doctor is going to find the pathology and he's going to treat it and he's going to manage it. The nurse practitioner might take a step back and kind of look at the whole thing because that's the way her mind or his mind is trained to think and say, okay, why is she getting sick all the time? Yada, yada, yada. Might look deeper into it, look at all these psychosocial realms, and might find out maybe she has an eating disorder. And we might take a deeper look into her BMI and see she's really thin and perhaps her immune system's down. And I know that's a really poor example, but I hope that helps a little bit paint the picture of kind of the role of both. So nurse practitioners are rarely in the OR. I will probably never be like a first assist for surgery. I know nurse practitioners who do, but that's not really our role. And so, yeah, I would say it like that. Doctors are phenomenal and we need them. And they're very specialized. And I would never compare myself to a physician and say I'm the same thing. Because even though from a legality standpoint, there are a few things that I cannot do that a physician can do. But I think one of them might be like I could never prescribe methadone for a heroin addict or something. There are very few things that I cannot do that a physician can do, but a physician has been in school for literally almost a decade. His depth of knowledge is massive. And so I want to give them all the credit in the world. But that's kind of how I decided to go down the nurse practitioner path. And I definitely decided against it versus the PA because I wanted full autonomy, to be completely honest. I wanted to be my own entity. And so that's why I went that way. So I hope I answers that question. I had one more question that said, during my RD, during my dietetic training, what were some extracurriculars that I did? And so I would say a few things. One, let me add a little tidbit in about dietitians. If you are so passionate about helping people with food, and that is your bread and butter, is nutrition and really helping people in that direction, you don't need to go be something else. That was not my bread and butter. I just loved the body, and I loved physiology, and I loved pathophysiology, and I loved all of that. And so I wanted a broader scope. In terms of extracurriculars, I think if you're going back to school to be a nurse, if you're going back to school to be a RD, if you are an undergrad and doing this, I think whatever you do, get in extracurriculars that give you leadership opportunity. Programs and jobs want to see that you are a leader. They want to see that you know how to lead people well, that you know how to influence people, that people respect you, that you can delegate tasks, all those things. A leadership position is huge. So in college, I was in a sorority. Don't judge me. I was a Rho Gamma, which is kind of a leadership role. It's kind of like a counselor role for girls that are rushing. And then I also then became a recruitment director. And so that was a really, really good role for me. I was a recruitment director on Panhellenic, which is kind of like this overall governing board of sororities and fraternities at colleges. And so it was me and two other women who then led about 80 women and how to counsel and really mentor these incoming freshmen who are going to be rushing for sororities. So that was a huge leadership role that I had. I think I also was I did something for the Hutton Honors College at IU. I don't even remember now. And then when I got into my first job, I was the director of nutrition and kind of ran this nutrition program. And so I think any extracurricular that you do that's going to give you leadership opportunity, that's kind of the biggest thing for you. And then of course, if you can get a job or a summer job in some sort of food service industry, if you're going into nursing school, get a job as like a nursing tech. I love nursing techs. I think they're amazing. We could not do our job without them. As a dietetics student, I worked in the food service department of a hospital. Straight up on the line, making food and bringing it up to the patients. And I know it's not a sexy job. It's not a glamorous job, but it's good experience, and you get to talk to the dietitians, and you get a really, you get good experience. And so those are my recommendations for that. Okay, these videos are getting long. When you come back, or in our next video series, I don't know what I'm talking about, I'll go into like some study tips and what helped me study for boards, study throughout school, stay focused, all that good stuff. I think one thing I just want to end with is that when things get really stressful and things become overwhelming, the biggest thing that was helpful for me to write everything down and then remember the big picture. This little thing, this little snapshot in time, unless it's like passing your boards, really doesn't matter compared to the big, big, big picture. So when you get stressed out, take a step back, take 5 deep breaths, and think about the big picture. And I hope that's helpful. All right, guys, have a great day, and we'll be back next time with study tips.